Meeting of the Hampton Township Council for Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023, and we will start with the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Blackburn? Here. Dr. Doherty?
Present.
Ms. Fritsch? Present. Mr. Kernick?
Present.
Dr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Speakman?
Present.
All right, first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the voting meeting held Wednesday, July 26, 2023, and the regular meeting held Wednesday, August 9th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Roll call.
Ms. Blackburn?
So I abstain from July 26th, and I favor for August 9th.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor for July 26th and abstain from August 9th.
Ms. Fritsch? Favor. Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
In favor. All right, next item on the agenda is citizens' agenda matters. If anyone has anything that they would like to address to council this evening, please step to the microphone and state your name and address.
Hello, my name's Al Whirling, lifelong resident of Allison Park. I live at 2885 Talcott Road. Times change. Times are always changing. That's what's great about life. I have just two quick questions. The township manager's position's aiming to be filled. And the question I have is, when Ms. Burnett became assistant township manager, I inquired quite a bit to that position, called municipalities around, and are we the only township that has an assistant township manager?
No,
No.
Absolutely not.
Okay. My other question, how many years do you have to sit in the township manager's position to receive a pension of that title?
Well, any township employee in Hampton Township who has 20 years of service and reaches the age of 60 maximizes their pension value in the township's general employees pension plan, of which I'm in. If our employees wish to contribute to a 457 plan on top of that, that can be done as well. And when I started with the township, I was not in the township's pension plan. I was in the 457 plan. So to save you a lot of time, I have both. I contribute to both. The township contribution for the defined benefit plan is 3%.
I guess the question I have is, how long is the next township manager going to be responsibly hired to steward the township for more than, what is it, 20 years or 7 or?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of Township Council, but I'll bet you they'd love it to be 20 years, because it's no easy task to go through what they're going through right
do
now.
this again.
But it can be 2 years, it can be 10 years, it can be 50 years. It just depends.
Thank you.
All right, does anyone else have anything that they would like to address to council this evening? All right, then moving on, the next item on our agenda is a proclamation recognizing Northampton Volunteer Fire Department member Mr. Albert Hahn for 60 years of service to the fire department and the community. Mr. Lochner has a proclamation that he would like to read. Mr. Hahn, if you could come up.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a proclamation of the Township of Hampton, County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, recognizing and honoring the public service of Albert L. Hahn. Whereas Albert L. Hahn joined the Northampton Volunteer Fire Department on July the 9th, 1963, where his father, John A. Hahn, was a founding member, and that was in 1956. whereas Mr. Hahn has served in several line officer positions with the department, including lieutenant, captain, assistant chief, and chief during his tenure. And whereas Albert Hahn has responded to over 9,000 fire calls during his 60 years of active service. And whereas Mr. Hahn continues to actively serve the Northampton Volunteer Fire Department as one of its most active responders. And whereas Al is highly respected amongst his peers and continues to pass his knowledge as well as wisdom to all those who serve with him. Now therefore be proclaimed by the Council of the Township of Hampton on behalf of the residents of Hampton that Wednesday, August 23, 2023, be designated as Albert L. Hahn Day in Hampton. Furthermore, that the Council, on behalf of the Hampton citizenry, wishes to acknowledge Mr. Hahn's 60 years of membership with the Northampton Volunteer Fire Department and offers their sincerest thanks for his unwavering public service to the residents of Hampton, and is proclaimed this 23rd day of August 2023. Congratulations, Al.
I would like to step out of the frame and have all of the volunteer firefighters please come up and get a picture.
Congratulations. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Enough to have been there 60 years. Okay, that makes
16 at least.
It's the only way you look at it.
Thank you, Mr. Hahn.
Thank you, Al.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a presentation regarding the tennis and the pickleball court services by Players Edge.
While the two gentlemen from Players Edge are stepping up to the mic, Jim and his son, Nick? Okay. Just a little background for you. Both myself and Gateway engineer Joe Seitz have looked at the tennis courts from the standpoint of what we can do to obviously try and get them with a budget that we can live with. This particular technology was brought to our attention because it's unique. It can literally lay on top of the existing courts. It is fairly new. It is something that would be unique to Allegheny County. There are examples of it around here, but I don't want to give you the impression that it's something, you'll find it everywhere. The value of the product, though, is if it is something we can make work and it is something we would like to pursue, after a 15-year period, which is where it's warranted, if it's still in good shape, it can stay there. But the other value is that it could be used on the tennis or the street hockey courts and the basketball courts as well. And the price tag of this particular product is half of what we looked at when we bid it conventionally. So it's not going to bounce as well on carpet, unfortunately, but to give you a general idea of what it is all about, I'll let Jim go ahead and proceed if that's okay with everybody here.
Okay. Well, my name is Jim Anderson. I am one of the owners of the Players Edge. I brought with me a couple of my associates with me. My son Nick Anderson. He's been building courts for about 5 years. We've got Trevor Pust, who has been one of the kind of our lead installers out in the area for 7 or 8 years. And then my other business partner is a guy by the name of Mike Postel. He's a local guy. Unfortunately, he had some medical issues, so he wasn't able to be here. So, but first of all, I wanted to thank the opportunity to come and talk to you guys, be able to present our products, and you like what you see. So, just a little bit of overview about what the modular tile can do. Modular tile, it's been around for 30, 40 years on, and it's really geared towards both new construction and also retrofitting existing surfaces. It's great for basketball courts, pickleball courts. We can use it on deck hockey, tennis courts, and then we also do a lot of what we would call multi-game sports, where we can put multiple sports on the same court layout. So, some of the features. The tile itself is, it will absorb heat. So actually, like when Nick and I came in from Illinois last night, and today when we were talking to his wife, and it's 119 in Cedar Rapids where he lives. So on days like that, it's going to be hot anywhere, but the tile helps absorb the heat, so you don't kind of get that radiating heat coming off the court. So they're much cooler to play on. The tile itself comes with a UV and an antioxidant stabilizer that we put into the color of the tile. One of the big knocks of modular tile 10 years ago was you could put a red and blue court out in somebody's backyard, and 5 years being out in the weather, and it's baby blue and pink. So the industry itself, we have spent a lot of time and money and effort into building up that portion of the product. So in today, we basically sell on the idea that you should really see no more than probably 5 to 10% color loss over the life of the tile. So big strides have been coming off of that. The tile is perforated, so it will, moisture will drain right through it, right down onto the existing surface, roll off to the side. What that basically means is if there are imperfections in the subsurface, a lot of times you don't know about it because the water goes down underneath of it. But it's also, because it is perforated and it is open to the air, it's a very quick dry surface. So typically if it's raining out, the sun comes back out, you usually get, 15, 20 minutes and you're good to be able to go back out and play, where on traditional surfaces where, it takes much longer for those courts to dry to be able to go out and play them. The other thing that we offer is we are offering a 16-year manufacturer's warranty. So any kind of a product defect over that period of time is going to be covered, and obviously we would replace that type of product. We do offer the 16-year manufacturer's warranty, but life expectancy of this product is 20 to 25 plus number of years to actually be outdoors and be played on. So we have a couple different types of tile. We have a Performance Edge tile and a Performance Edge Pro tile. The Performance Edge tile is the one that we would use more for basketball, multi-game courts, deck hockey courts. It's a little harder compound that we make the tile out of. The Pro tile is we use the same mold to make the tile, so essentially it's the same type of product, but we have an additive that we put in it that makes it better for pickleball, tennis, and then also some multi-game courts as well. So the Performance Edge tile, it's a non-abrasive design. So, players that fall on it, they're going to hop back up. You're not going to get a road rash or anything like that. It is the tile is made out of 100% of a virgin polypropylene resin. If you're looking to compare us to other tiles in the market, we're all made out of the same stuff for the most part. The raw material that we use, everybody uses a virgin polypropylene resin. The only differences between us and some of the other type of products that are out there is the design of the mold that the product gets injected into. We have basically a better grip design on the tile, and then we also have between the locking mechanisms, because it is a polypropylene resin, it will expand and contract with the weather. So what we do is in the locking mechanism is designed to allow the courts to breathe. So you may find that if you go out, say you put a 30 by 30 court in your backyard, you may find if you go out and you look at it in January when it's 10 below zero, it might be a couple inches shorter than it is in July when it's fully expanded out. And that's by design. If we didn't do something like that, that tile would buckle and you'd have issues with it. So, let's go to the next one. So like I said, the edge tile, it's going to be more towards like deck hockey, basketball. If you look, I put some samples up on the counters. The edge tile is going to be either the light blue one or the gray one. If you notice, if you feel between the two tiles, the one that's kind of that more of a kind of royal blue has a little bit more flex to it. It's a little bit softer, which I'll explain that here in a second. But the harder one we use for, like I said, for like deck hockey and basketball and so forth. It's got a wear and tear better when it comes to the kids. They'll slapping sticks on it and that kind of stuff. So, the Pro Tile, the only really difference between the two is that we have a proprietary additive that we put into the raw material that gives it that extra, if you kind of said, you kind of bend it, it's got a little bit more flex to it. The reason we did that is for like the paddle sports, such as like pickleball, which is a huge craze across the country right now. Everybody wants pickleball. Tennis courts, basically what the additive does is it gives the ball just a little bit better ball bounce. The other thing about our tile is that the design that we put together has very small, it's still perforated so the moisture goes through, but the openings are very small. And what you get by that is there's more surface area, so you get a very true ball bounce. You're not going to find where the ball will hit part of the tile and carry them off in a different direction. These tiles and these courts are very customizable. We offer 16 different colors that we can mix and match. So we really do some neat designs and some really cool things with them. So things like for school systems, we also can do customized logos. Basically, if I can get a fairly high resolution JPEG file, we can get a stencil made and we can go ahead and create and put the logos. And you can kind of see, like on that one with the aircraft carrier, we can get down to some pretty neat detail when it comes to basically being able to personalize courts for whether it be somebody's backyard or whether it be a school system or whatever that case may be. For tonight's application, as far as some of your commercial benefits, I know that I've been made aware that you guys put this out for bid once before, and the pricing came back extremely high when it came to wanting to redo these courts. The modular tile system is built to basically overlay over the top of the existing surface. So we actually came over earlier this evening and we walked around your tennis courts, and quite frankly, we looked at them, and it's gonna be it would be a very easy install for us. There's not a ton of cracking that's going on there. And there's not a lot of, like, it was raining, so there wasn't really a lot of bird baths and so forth. So the application actually would be very easy for us. The tile system would be it's a very quick installation. Trevor and I were talking while we were down there. For us to come in and do what's in your proposal that's in those white folders I gave you, we'd be in and out in probably 4 days. We probably would spend the first day fixing what cracks there are. We'd have to strip off some of the tar that's over some of the cracks that's there now. Then we would basically reassess and make the correct repair before the tile would go down. We'd have a couple days of laying tile on it, and then we would probably paint on the 4th day. So in and out probably under a week. One of the other big benefits for, especially like the facilities people, these courts are very low maintenance. Once you install these, there's really nothing that you have to do to them. The weather kind of keeps them clean. When it rains, it basically washes most of the dirt down below, and then it'll wash off to the side. If you get leaves on them, you can go out and take a leaf blower to them. But really, there's no maintenance to the courts. So it frees up your staff to be able to do other projects and so forth around the borough or the district that you're looking at. Like I said before, the courts are very fast dry, which means you get more play on them. So people aren't going to be standing around waiting for courts to dry. They're going to be out there and do them. Like I said, we have 16 different colors, so we can kind of mix and match, and we can create some really cool. I know myself, I've been doing it for over 15 years, and my partner Mike, he's been doing courts here in the Pittsburgh area for over 25 years. So we've got just books and books of samples and stuff that we can do and things that we've done. So player comfort, you're going to get you'll get compliments from the people that come out and play on them. They are by design. They have what they call a dim test, which basically is not that you can really feel it in it, but there is some flexibility to the tile. And what we find is that players they don't have the sore knees, ankles, hips, their joints when they play on these, because there is some cushioning that goes on with the tile. They also that 1/16 of an inch that goes between the tiles. I'd like to take credit for it, but I really can't. But the added benefit to the player is that it provides a little bit of lateral forgiveness. So you don't get you really don't feel it when you're playing, but when you stop and plant your foot and go the different directions and so forth, there is that little bit of give, and that also helps with the soreness of the players and so forth. And like I said, I'd like to say that we did that by design, but it's for the expansion and contraction. It's just kind of an added benefit. So the other thing we can do with we can do multiple options on courts. So if you have if you guys were to go with the proposal and do the three pickleball courts and the 5 tennis courts, it would be very easy for us to come in and add. So say you need additional pickleball courts. It'd be very easy for us to come in and just add the striping to the existing tennis courts to be able to add pickleball to those. If you have other areas like basketball, I can honestly say that 90% of the courts that I do for residential, for people's backyards, 5 years ago we did things like 30 by 30s, which is just kind of a small, nice backyard type of court. A pickleball court is 20 by 44. So now we're finding that the big majority of the people are coming to want to do like a 30 by 50 or a 30 by 60. We're putting the basketball, we're putting pickleball. We give them different options to be able to get multiple options, to be able to go out and play on the courts. So like I said, we offer a 16-year manufacturer's warranty on the product as well. You're gonna get 20 to 25 plus years of life expectancy out of the product. Again, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. We appreciate the time. We look forward to, hopefully being able to forge a partnership with the township. And
How's it hold up to shoveling snow off?
as long as you don't take a shovel and gouge into it,
Yeah,
it's not bad. I mean, you don't have any issues with it. It's kind of like any other surface. If you were to take a shovel, a steel shovel, and
yeah.
but we have customers that put them in their driveways, and they take and run a snow blower over the
So
top
it
of
would
it.
have a tendency in the wintertime to basically not drain and build up ice. So-
No.
So you really wouldn't.
Yeah, I
be
mean,
able to
it's
use it?
not. You can use pretty much any kind of means that would be that you use in your driveway. You can pretty much use on these as well. So if you wanted to throw salt down on them and so forth, it's not going to hurt the product.
What about dirt?
Dirt will roll off the sides.
It doesn't go down in between like little rocks and stuff? Like if
No,
a
not typically.
stone gets on here that's maybe the tiniest bit larger than this? Does
Those
it
would,
hold?
when you can just take a broom and brush them off.
Yeah.
If it does get down underneath of it, don't really. That's one of the things that we did on the design of this product was we made the hole smaller than some of the other products that are out there.
Stones come in all sizes.
Sure. And if anything were to get down underneath of it and so forth, if the weather or the rain wouldn't wash it away, it is a modular system. So if you find that you have an issue with it, you can go out to one of these edges, and you lift up on one side, down on the other, you pull up that section, you can go ahead and make any kind of repair or clean the stuff out from underneath of it, broom it off, whatever, snap it back in, nobody knows it's there.
Have you installed any of these in the Pittsburgh area
Mhm.
in like a municipality or school district?
Yeah, we just did a futsal court over at Mount Lebanon.
A what court?
Futsal, it's kind of like a.
It's soccer.
It's
Kinda
indoor
like a
soccer.
soccer. Indoor
Yeah,
soccer.
it's indoor soccer.
So, and we put, it's a 65 by 100, so 6,500 square feet. And then we've also done some residential areas around.
Have you done anything outdoor on a commercial level in the Pittsburgh area?
The Mount Lebanon would be the commercial.
So is it outside futsal court?
Yeah.
And how recent was that?
Went in 3 weeks ago? Yeah, 3-4 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. So not long enough. And I only ask, and I don't think we've met before, maybe I met your partner, but for a Bible Chapel campus, I think we looked at this product in a gym. And we wound up going with conventional, but it would have been a cost savings for sure.
Well, and, if you're looking at it for a gymnasium, that's a whole different ballgame. This product here is made strictly for outdoor use.
Well, you don't have the expansion and contraction.
Correct.
And that, like there was a slide up there that showed a tennis court that was blue and then there was green around the edge.
Mhm.
So your proposal, like our tennis courts over there, what percentage of the court does it all get covered by the mesh?
Mhm.
And then you have two different colors and you have to use paint or? you
Yeah,
have-
so, I've got 16 different colors. So
Yeah.
if you want to make, theoretically, if you wanted to make each different tennis court, if you want to make one red, one purple, one green, one blue, we can make them all different colors if you'd like.
I only ask because I don't know the dimensions of a tennis court, but I know they have stripes.
Yes,
And I see this is like a 1 foot module or 14.
it's a 12 by 12, yes.
So how do you put the stripe on that?
So basically, once the tiles get laid out, because we do use a foot, a 12-inch tile, if you notice, like here, the stripe goes along the edge of the tile.
Yeah.
So we have it measured out to the point where it's, so you would have a regulation tennis court.
And is that the green is what's painted? Green and white
This,
are painted?
this example, it would be,
Yeah.
but we can paint it, anyway.
So then this black thing, that black trim piece,
Mhm.
is that like right up against the chain link over there?
So the way it would work is that basically we would take the tile. You can do it one of two ways. When we were looking at the courts, we would basically take the the courts themselves
I guess what's in your bid? You provided
So,
the
yeah, so
estimate.
the bid provides the black rampage to go around it.
All the way around the whole
All the way
perimeter of
all the way
everything?
around the whole perimeter. And then when it comes to the fences that go through the center, we would either stop the tile, we could also run a ramp edge through there if you would
Yeah.
like. Or we could, you could also have the fence raised up an inch or so, and we could run the tile right down underneath of it.
And what do you do with the posts to pick up the,
We would cut around the post.
it'd be like a little trim piece or something?
Well, no, so basically what you do is, we would use like a little, like an angle grinder or like a jigsaw or something to cut around the post. We usually leave between 3/4 of an inch and an inch to allow for that expansion and contraction so it doesn't bind up on it.
And you say it's 2 inches over how many feet?
Pardon me?
You said it can, the dimensions of it can change 2 inches between winter and summer.
It can expand and contract, yes.
2 inches. But usually when you're looking at a material, it's, you measure the expansion like per inch or per foot. So if it expands or contracts 2 inches, is that over the width of a tennis court? Or the
So
width of
the way-
4 tennis courts?
When we do the design, what I will calculate out in the tile design will be the tile at maximum expansion. So, no matter how hot it gets or whatever, the tile's gonna get no bigger
Yeah,
than, like the proposal that's in here, it has, I can provide the actual dimension of what the tile will cover. And it might shrink up a little bit in the wintertime,
yeah.
but when it expands back out, it won't get any bigger than that. So, and that's one of the things that we deal in on a day-to-day basis when we're dealing with, not so much in the commercial side, but more on the residential side, where we work a lot with the concrete contractors to put concrete pads in people's backyards and so forth, that we're gonna provide that dimension so that way when they pour the pad, it's gonna fit the courting pad.
And last question, what percentage of your business is commercial and what percentage is residential?
We probably do, it's probably gonna be 70-30. 70% would be residential, 30% would be commercial.
Okay.
So you're placing these tiles on top of the surface that's already there?
Mhm.
So what happens when the underneath surface cracks?
You probably never know. That's one of the beautiful things about this. With, like if you guys decide to go for this, Trevor's going to be our guy that's going to come out. He's going to be the lead installer to do it. We've already talked about the fact that the existing cracks that are there, we're going to go through. We would pull that tar that was put on the cracks. We would pull that out, and then we would go back in and if needed, we would go ahead and fill those cracks back in with like an asphalt, like a patch binder. And then
Would the patch binder that you put on it, like, would it leave it flush?
yes. So we would basically flatten that area out, and then we would go ahead and lay the tiles down over the top of it.
Yeah.
As far as like any future cracks and so forth, more than likely you probably never know they're there, because obviously you're not going to see them. If you find that the subsurface does crack, like I said, it's modular. So instead of having to come through and redo, so like in a traditional acrylic court, when it cracks, it's done. I mean, you basically have to come back in and fill that crack and then put all new acrylic on it so it all matches and so forth. With our system, if we go through, we fix any of the imperfections before we put it down. We put it down. If something arises in the future, all you have to do is pop up that tile in that section. You go ahead and make your repair, and then you put the tile back down.
How easy is it to pop up the tile?
It's gotta be impossible. There we go. Yeah, but let's say it's right in the middle. You mean you have to work your way to the middle?
No, you can get a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and put it in here and pop a single piece up. and work from wherever you like.
What's to keep our residents or?
Yeah, have
like
you ever
group,
had a problem
uh,
with vandalism?
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Man, I'm thinking that's going to be harder than.
people that are going to go out and do that kind of, you know, they could do the same thing to an asphalt court or an acrylic court, and you really don't have any recourse on that as well. The one thing about the modular system, if somebody goes out and does something, you know, say they go out and they damage 100 tiles, well, you know, my tiles are as you see in the proposal, $355 a square foot. So essentially, you're looking at $350 to go replace that product, put it back in, and nobody knows, you know. And I'd be willing to bet if somebody goes out and graffiti something on an acrylic board, you're going to spend more than that in labor trying to get somebody to go out there and scrub that off, if you can get it off. So, yes, I mean, if somebody wants to come out and do harm, they're going to do harm. As far as, I know the next question a lot of times I'll get is, well, what keeps it in place? Well, each of these tiles weighs roughly about, they're about 7.7 pounds. So, especially like in your,
8 ounces?
roughly, yeah. So when you look at your
No,
application,
that's like 10 ounces.
you know, it's 30-some thousand tiles. So, you know, you're going to be well over 20,000 pounds.
All right, another question. What about flame spread and smoke development?
Flame spread and smoke.
Yeah. Are they flammable? Do they melt?
I mean, I suppose, yeah, yes, they would be. It would have the same kind of properties as any other plastic would be.
Yeah, so it's a plastic.
Hmm?
Okay.
Can you compare the ball bounce on a tennis court between what we have now and what you would experience on this product?
So what we're finding is the ball bounce actually is a little better because of the additive we add to the plastic.
To your knowledge, has the WPIAL approved this as a surface, or the NCAA, or any other sports athletic association?
Not at this time, no.
So there's been no testing? I mean, you say the ball bounce is better. How often
That's
do
just
you?
our internal testing of what we found.
Yeah.
When we were doing some of our internal work on.
But what is better? That's the question.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it's a relative term, but what we're finding is, you know, the ball actually, when you drop it on a tile, or the best example is to take it and, you know, stand like 10 feet apart and then, you know, throw it and bounce it and so forth. And we were finding that actually the ball actually reacted better on the tile than it was like on a standard concrete or asphalt surface.
I think you're going to find that if you're putting this inside buildings, you will have a flame spread and smoke development test, and there should be an ASTM test, believe it or not, for ball bounce for a tennis court that athletic associations use, that it falls within a certain range. I'm certain of it.
Yeah, it's very possible. Like I said, the only thing we've done is our own like internal testing and so forth with it. When we were the additive that we did a lot of different testing with the percentage of the additive we added to the raw material to see what we could get for a better product.
This question is more internal. So do they host a lot of, do they host any tennis competitions, the high school here in Hampton?
Playoffs.
Do they host the playoffs here?
If it's a home and away playoff situation, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If we reached out to the school district, and we received an email back from them that told us exactly what Mr. Koenig is talking about. The WPL has not sanctioned it for play. So therefore, if the Hampton High School tennis team wanted to use it, they could use it for home matches and practice, but they could not use it for any type of WPL playoff play or sections or anything along that line.
But currently they do that here. They have playoffs and games and.
Well, they have hosted playoffs here before.
So if you went with this service, then you couldn't do that anymore.
That would be up to the WPIL, that's correct.
Okay.
So, you know, I mean, the question at that particular point would be, I guess it's a twofold question.
So we kind of limit our use by one of our key stakeholders.
We certainly would, but are we building competition courts or recreation courts?
And one thing to keep in mind now, I mean, I asked you a question in email, and I know the answer already. And I asked you if the school district pitched in when the courts were initially built.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's my understanding that they paid for 50%.
That's wrong.
That's wrong.
That's absolutely wrong.
Okay, well.
They paid $65,000 for the $265,000 project.
Well, that's why I asked the question.
No, that's no problem. I'm just saying, I've heard them say that before, we contribute 50%. They did not contribute 50%.
So, question of the commercial projects that you have done, any of them for competitive tennis play?
This product, we have not. In my experience with my former life, we did things like, we did a court up at the U.S. Open, and we had like the Williams sisters come out and play as kind of an exhibition on it. We've done things where we had Nadal. He came and played an exhibition match on him. But as far as being a sanctioned or tournaments being played on him and so forth, no. We have done other we put him at there was a junior college down in South Carolina that put it in. And they kind of like what you were saying, they, as long as they could use it for practice and they played their home matches on it, so they got a lot of use out of it that way. But as far as like their, tournaments at the end of the season and so forth, it really wasn't an option for them. They were looking more for the longevity of the product and the versatility to be able to basically not have to redo their courts every 3 to 4 years to keep them looking nice. When we could actually go in, we could put this type of surface down, and they got a much longer life expectancy out of the course before they'd have to do any maintenance.
And that's the real policy question for you. That's the reason why we brought this to you. Mm-hmm. There's no problem. However you want to proceed is fine. It's just that if you continue the current approach, about every 10 years you're going to have to redo the courts. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it's going to be, which is fine. But the cost value is now becoming an issue that you may have to consider. So that's the play here. I mean, however you want to handle it.
When you say fast dry, do you mean actual dry or just it drains well?
Both, because there's not a lot of surface area to the. Obviously, it kind of looks like it when you're looking at it, but there's the tile design itself. All the little different ridges and so forth are. If you really start looking at them, they have kind of a tapered edge on them. So so when the water hits it, it basically it's kind of crowned, so it just kind of comes off the side. So so when it's open to the air, the water doesn't sit on it, so it dries much faster.
It's like a 50% open, maybe, something like
pretty
that.
much.
Now, one of the things we could do for you, if you'd like, is you could bid at both. We could make adjustments on the original bid by, the original bid, part of the problem was in order to redo the courts, you'd have to remove the fence. That was about $120,000 of that bid.
So yes, about 120,000, yes.
If you wanted to cut 1 foot off the edge, so you wouldn't have to remove the fence and just redo the center, you wouldn't affect play, but you would, that 1 foot would not be replaced. I mean, obviously, all we would do is repair it as best as we could. And then you could bid that and see how that particularly comes into play, because we would save some money off the fencing. You could bid this at the same time too, see what the differential is between the two, and make a decision at that particular point.
I want to dig into what you just said about so I'm just going to restate it so I'm sure I understand. You're saying you don't worry about the fence, but they're gonna need to take enough out in order to get their milling machine on there, in order to, or whatever, the asphalt machine.
Correct.
Yes. So they do they cut the grooves where the big cracks are,
Correct.
repair the sub base as best they could, and then they would bridge that gap. I mean, my feeling is that over time, that's the seam from the asphalt machine for the base course is perfectly aligned with the seam for the top course. Water is getting in there. The freeze thaw is causing the crack to get wider every year. So they cut that out. They go all the way down to the sub base. They pour that again, and then they put do they have a wider top course to patch it?
No, they wouldn't pass it. They would do the whole section. If this was the center part of the course we were doing,
Yeah.
the whole part would be covered.
I think there's some merit in that. I think then that is a dollar savings, so that.
So, but you could look at that. That would be your two alternatives you could look at. You could bid them both and then see how it goes from there.
And then if this is low enough, and it's very possible that this could come down, I would think, in a competitive bid situation, and it might help reduce our other price too. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
So it's really up to you. Now, the problem you're still going to have at the end is if you do decide you want to go with this product, there is not much doubt that the school district will say that, well, then you've limited our use of the facility. I can't argue that. Again, but the question you have to answer to yourselves, that's why this is all a policy question, is are we building recreational courts or are we building competitive courts?
But I do think we would be remiss if we didn't. You say the cost was $265,000. They paid $65,000.
Yes.
So they paid, I don't know, less than a quarter, a little bit less than a quarter, and that should be worth something. So they
haven't
were.
offered to pay anything on this.
Pardon?
They haven't offered to pay anything on the new one.
Have we asked?
Nobody has asked.
That's
Right.
correct.
No, but my point is, I think they are a stakeholder, and they did pay $65,000 in good faith. And my feeling is they should be, even if they don't remember it that way, they might misremember it. I trust your memory.
Thank you.
But I think that they should be involved as a stakeholder, and we get their buy-in no matter which direction we go.
Well, one of the other things you could do too, and again, it's totally up to you as a group, you can differentiate between the cost values. For example, let's say this product is what you gave us as a proposal, $195,000. The more conventional approach ends up being $300,000. You could ask them to give you the balance.
But no one's reached out to the school district yet.
Oh yes, we have.
You have?
Oh yeah, I've reached.
What's their response?
They sent us an email response. Dr. Law had sent it, said that the athletic director and the tennis coach had reviewed the product because we sent them all the information. And exactly what was alluded to earlier, their biggest concern is that the WPL won't sanction it.
But has anyone approached the school district about contributing to the cost of resurfacing the
That
courts
was
this time
my
around?
question,
No.
actually.
That has
No.
not been done.
Okay, so we've talked to them about the product, but not about contributing like they did last time. Well, that seems like we need to do that,
We certainly can do that too.
especially if the bids that came in for the conventional resurfacing are too high, and we didn't ask them if they would subsidize or contribute. I'm just saying.
But just as I think Chris's strategy is worthwhile. That the asphalt season is almost over. It's still ongoing.
Yeah, November 15th.
Well, so maybe there is the opportunity to get better bidding. And if push comes to shove and we need time to negotiate with the school district,
Just reject the bids and put it off till next year. In the meantime, you can, at that particular point, explore the cost differential between the two.
Well, I do think it's worth exploring. I think that it's an interesting idea.
and they may, those cracks are pretty big. I'm sure by now we've all gone over there and looked at that. They may actually think, well, if we can practice on this without those cracks, without paying any extra money, maybe that's something that they would want to do.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
It doesn't sound like there is a downside to bidding it both ways at this point, to explore our options.
I personally don't think so. I mean, the other value I think you also gain from this is what would be the amount we would ask the school district to contribute. We can't differentiate what that value is. We now can do that. So at that particular point, you can go from there. And if you come to the conclusion that you feel more comfortable with just putting the product on, you have a pretty good idea of what the product can and cannot do. And if it does hold up to the point that Jim and his team say it does, well, you have basketball courts you're going to have to be looking at in the future, and you have street hockey courts you're going to have to look at in the future. You could use the same product. So
What else is in this white thing?
that's their proposal.
So yeah, there's the proposal in there, there's a sample of the proposed layout, the template of what they would look like.
You guys got an MSDS around anywhere?
What's that?
Some sort of product spec sheet, something?
There is a spec sheet. We haven't done an MSDS one, but we've got the kind of the characteristics of the tiles in there.
Yeah.
So,
All right, does anyone else have any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming
Sure,
out this
thanks so much.
evening.
thank you very much.
What we'll do at this point, Jim, is we'll have Joe Seitz contact you, let you know exactly how we're moving forward.
Okay, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
All right, moving on to administration.
As soon as my computer boots back up, actually, the next item, first item under administration is pretty simple. Why I'm requesting it, I'm not real sure, but the manager's requested an authorization for a special meeting for September the 13th. This will give you the opportunity, if you're ready, to appoint a new municipal manager at that time. But you never heard that done before. The old one says appoint a new one.
Well, you've made it very clear that you want to retire.
Last chance.
Yeah, last chance.
Getting more urgent by the day.
We can reject this request.
You mean you seem sad, Chris?
Do I really? I'm not as sad as you think I am. Today,
All right.
today was a tough day for other reasons, but no, we've been through this. This is the right thing to do. Go ahead.
Does anyone have any questions? All right. Then, can I get a motion to advertise a special meeting for September 13th, 2023 regarding the possible appointment of a new municipal manager?
So moved.
It's like, don't everybody jump up at
Second.
once.
Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Item B is the manager recommends renewal of the township's insurance policies. Actually, I do not. I'd like you to table this particular item. There were some cyber questions on our cyber policies that we received information on today. We're just not ready to go. We may have to write this policy by month's end just to have it and have you endorse it in September. But I would rather not move forward until I know exactly what we're doing, and we're not really ready to go yet.
What were the issues with the cyber insurance?
Just some changes that they want to make, and I'd like our IT people to review it. I know in the past what we've done is we've given them an actual copy of the policy and let them go through it, and we received it literally today at 11 o'clock. That's not going to do it. So we need some time.
All right,
So
any
if you-
questions?
If you table it.
Any questions? All right, then can I get a motion to table renewal of the township's insurance policies per the manager's new recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
It's easy from here, don't worry.
It seems like it's been a rough day for
I
everyone.
don't know what's going on.
Okay, item C, the manager recommends adoption of a resolution. Colleen will give you the number for the township to be included in the Allegheny County Community Development Block Grant and Homes Investment Partnership Program for the 3-year program years of 2024, 25, and 26. This is logic, folks. We've been through this.
Anyone have any additional questions at this time? All right, resolution number, please.
1084.
All right, then can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 1084 for the township to be included in the Allegheny County Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Programs for the 3-year program from 2024 through 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Item D is the manager requests authorization to advertise for bids regarding the tennis courts and pickleball court project, and that would be utilizing both alternatives, if you're acceptable.
It seems that everyone agrees to that. Any additional questions at this time? All right, then can I get a motion to authorize the manager to advertise for bids regarding the tennis and pickleball courts projects, both ways as we've discussed?
Second. I'm sorry. So moved.
Second.
So roll call.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
I really
Goodness.
promise it'll get easier. Okay, item E. The manager recommends a table action regarding the Hampton Community Library Community Center lease agreement and payroll agreement as expected. The library did have some comments to it. We will incorporate them and reintroduce that to you in September. There should be no problems with regard to this agreement.
Any questions? All right, then can I get a motion to table action regarding the Hampton Community Library Community Center lease agreement and payroll agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Johnson?
Favor. All right, the next item is the North Hills COG monthly report. However, the executive board did not meet this month, so I will defer to the manager if there's anything he'd like to address.
The manager's board doesn't meet this month either, so
Okay.
our next meeting is in September.
All right. Then Water Authority monthly report.
Nothing to add.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Engineers monthly report.
I have nothing to add unless there's questions.
Legal counsel monthly report.
The only thing we would have to add is an update with regard to the Chang property, formerly Howard Johnson's. We argued a contest that's referenced. We do not have a disposition. We'll provide the board with a memo as soon as we've received that disposition. And unless you have other questions, we don't have anything else to add.
Any questions?
What did that mean?
We'll get you a memo, or you can go into executive session to discuss it.
Regarding where we did the asbestos and we are doing, or is there other?
You may not be doing asbestos at this juncture, depending upon what the ultimate disposition of the motion is. And if you want to discuss this, we can take it into executive session. I don't think it's necessary to do that, but if you feel compelled to do it, we will.
I'll ask right now, does anyone want to go to executive session tonight to discuss it, or are you willing to wait until the memo or
Well, until we have a disposition.
until we have a
might help.
disposition?
Right. So we know what we're telling you.
I'll wait till the disposition.
I concur.
And I promise that
Yeah.
we'll get you a memo out immediately upon receipt of the disposition.
All right, thank you.
English translation.
All right, controller's monthly report.
Overall, the general fund revenues and expenses are in line with budget and comparable to the same period last year. Real estate earned income and deed transfer taxes are $170,000 ahead of the same period last year. Deed transfer did benefit from the sale of the former Burger King, which has been demolished, if you haven't noticed, and First National Bank will build a new branch office there. Interest income is up $65,000 over last year and will continue to increase through the end of the year. Mr. Omasini and I reviewed repaying our TRAN in September, but we decided to wait until December since we are earning more in interest than we would be paying if we paid it back early. The pool revenue is slightly ahead by a whopping $2,000 versus the same period last year. But the concessions are behind by $6,000, and I'm assuming a lot of that's got to do with some weather issues that we've had this year, whereas last year was rather robust. As reported last month, sale of municipal property is $36,000 ahead of last year related to the sale of our replaced mowers. Collectively, all community center revenues are ahead of last year by a total of $48,000. Summer play camp by itself is $20,000 ahead of last year, which will be a record year. It's almost at $100,000 in revenue. Insurance reimbursements are $104,000 behind last year due to the delay in our dividend from MRM for workers' compensation insurance. They keep saying the check is in the mail, right?
It's the
As
Pony
summarized,
Express. It's the Pony Express.
yeah. The West. As summarized last month in regard to the expenses. Here's my cursor. Utility costs, primarily electricity, continues to be the major variance to budget, with the sewage treatment plant impacted the most by about $6,000 per month. As previously stated, we hope to offset the utility deficit with savings in salt expense. We also continue to benefit in fuel costs with lower consumption, lower than 2022 prices, and that we increased our budget. You have heard me comment every month about the police overtime exceeding budget. I'm pleased to report that in the latest payroll, there was less than $2,500 in overtime, even while one sergeant continues on workers' comp. So it is very much in the right direction right now. That was a good job this last 2 weeks. The hire of a third part-time officer contributed to that decrease, but will subsequently contribute to the part-time salaries being over budget, as it was not budgeted, as will the addition of the part-time social worker that was earlier approved. Although it is very early to estimate year-end results, there is a good chance that the operating budget will finish the year with a surplus, which can be considered for transfer to capital reserve for truck replacement or to capital improvement. For the stormwater fund, fee revenue is 100% of budget. Collection of delinquent fee revenue is at 76% of budget. All expenses are in line with or below budget, with 3 of the planned major projects in the early stages of incurring expense. As a reminder, in addition to the nearly $1 million budgeted for stormwater-related expenses, we are required to pay nearly $30,000 annually for our permit for this unfunded mandate. For the capital,
I'm sorry, can you back up?
yeah,
We're required to pay $30,000
Yes.
annually?
Yes.
That's to
Yeah.
the state?
yes,
Oh, all right.
yeah, yeah, you're looking at me.
That's
We-
their permit fee?
No, we have to charge ourselves.
Oh, we charge ourselves 30 grand?
We don't technically pay the Department of Environmental Protection. In order for us to have our permit, we must charge ourselves the same fee we charge anyone else. So we go through the value of having Gateway assess us a value, which I believe was like $26,000 or $27,000. We then literally have Jordan bill us. We run it as a regular check,
Yes.
and we pay ourselves. But we have to do it that way, Jerry. That's the law. Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay, that was interesting.
Which will make you feel better in the long run.
Yeah,
I feel better, yeah.
that's why it's the same odd amount every year.
That's right.
And you think I would know because I signed the check, right? For the capital improvement fund, 92% of the capital improvement tax has been received. Other budgeted revenue transfers should occur, although the $1 million grant budgeted for the Clearview Bridge project will be dramatically less and most likely will not be received at any level until 2024. Would you agree with that?
We'll submit for it in 2023, but you're absolutely correct. Most likely the Commonwealth will not pay it. The only grant that they'll probably pay us is the lead grant. And until we can get the billing for the actual bridge unit that was ordered, we won't be able to turn it in. So the odds are we'll never see it. We'll turn it in this year, but we won't see it till next year. That's a fair statement.
Okay, we have 3 projects significantly over budget. And the community center upgrades is $49,954 over budget. Topnick Drive sidewalk is $35,449 over budget. And the community park restroom is $185,476 over budget. That is in comparison to what we have spent versus what was in the capital project that was approved at the end of last year. Okay. We are $42,326 below budget with the swimming pool upgrades, which can hopefully then be reapplied to help the overages on the above. That leaves managing the budgets for the tennis courts and the Clearview Bridge as the options for addressing the over budget items. In other words, where do we make up the ground for the overages? So we have to reduce somewhere. Assuming all other authorized projects stay within the budget. And my current estimate is that there is $350,000 available to be applied toward those projects this year to stay in balance with the capital improvement expenditures and revenue.
Sorry, can you clarify that? There's $300,000 to be applied to the overage on those other
Right.
projects or to the tennis courts and the Clearview Bridge?
It would be other projects that have already been approved. Okay, so accounting for those and saying that those break even, the balance of the revenues that we are projecting to receive versus the other expenses, we would end up with $350,000 additional that can be allocated, divided up between those two projects, while still doing the other projects that are in the capital budget.
Unless we find another funding source.
So the three projects that are significantly over budget were a sidewalk project, the restroom, and what percentage did you figure out a percentage of those?
No.
Those were
No.
significant numbers.
You know, it's the complication that rolls into all of this is rollover of things that are budgeted in the prior year didn't necessarily get performed, executed, or completed in the prior year. Therefore, the expenses were not in the prior year.
Okay.
And therefore, you start rolling into rollover projects that were, last year, this year, but.
And many of those got delayed because of the supply chain issues.
Yes, yeah. So it just, we had funds that rolled over to the beginning of the year in the capital that were not expent last year, but they were included in coming up with the balanced budget for this year. So for example, the restroom, we expected to spend, I don't know, $200,000 last year was in the budget?
Mhm.
Okay, we put $100,000 in the budget this year, okay? We did not spend anything last year. So all of that expense came over.
But the revenue did not.
But the restroom, so it helps to, that's part of the reason why there was a larger balance coming into the beginning of the year, because we didn't spend the money. It's just to make you aware that capital is going to be running tight, and then certainly as we continue looking at the tennis courts, it will influence your decision-making there. We already know that Clearview is going to roll into next year in a big fashion. So it may not be one that you have to spend a lot of additional funds this year, but it will eat it up next year.
I was going to wait till the end to talk about this, but it's okay to talk about it?
I'm
Okay.
done.
Okay. One of the things we do very well when we sit down is we can foresee things that are going to happen. We knew this was going to happen well back in February. We began asking questions internally about how we could generate additional funding sources. Next month, Ron Braun, who's your bond counsel for the bonds that we did for the sewage treatment plant, will be present at the meeting to offer you an ordinance that you could advertise that would allow the Township of Hampton to utilize all interest earnings from their bond monies for capital purposes. So I would hope your thought process is, well, how much did you earn? We have almost $2 million right now in interest earnings. We're rolling at about $200,000 a month.
And legally, despite that being taken out for the sewer plant, we can put it towards other capital
It's not
projects.
taken out for the bonds were taken out for the sewer plant and any capital project that we deemed appropriate.
Okay.
That's the way we wrote the bond issue. So to give yourself a little bit of breathing room, we know we can take $1 million of that $2 million and apply to the Clearview Road Bridge project. So we will hold that money and sit there. When we do the budget for next year, the revenue source for the Clearview Road Bridge project will be $1 million from interest earnings, $200,000 from stormwater management, $100,000 from sewer because there's a sewer line that needs to be moved as part of that project, and a $250,000 grant. If you added that real quick in your head, you're over $1.6 million. The project's only $1.6 million. So we already know we covered the Clearview Road project. We also know we have $500,000 in that, if you follow that strategy, that you could apply to capital projects and then still take $500,000 and set it aside. Now, you're going to have to set aside some interest value because we are creaming on interest earnings the interest rate value. And what's going to happen is we're going to arbitrage the bonds. So we have to pay tax on the bonds. We knew that. And we figured it's going to be somewhere around $1 million, right? Give or take. So we will have that in place as well. But this is really an exercise of we did a little bit too good a job investing because we are literally rolling in it. And we saw it. We could see it coming down the pike. What do you think, about February? Yeah. So we knew this was coming. So we're not over. Jerry is absolutely correct in everything he said. But Chris isn't panicked because he knows that alternative approach is in place for you to play the game. So there is a way to, and by the way, Jerry, we talked to Jerry about this at length. It will be fine. Everything will be fine. You will have the cash in hand. But to Jerry's point, one of the problems you have with capital, and that's one of the reasons why we come to you and ask you to do a capital project, is if we run into a supply problem like we did, and we have $200,000 for a restroom in the park in the 22 capital budget, and we only have $100,000 in the 23 budget because we figure we're going to be 3/4 of the way done. If we don't change the revenue, because we don't know that, we figure we're going to be completed with it, then we're behind the budget no matter what we do. That's why we go project by project by project, because when it comes to capital, cash is king. If we don't have the money in the bank, we can't do it. But if you take the interest value and you apply it, all of a sudden your problem just went away. So we have thought it out a little bit. There is some strategy to it. Everything Mr. Speakman said is accurate. However, we've already addressed it and figured out a way around it. And by the way, that interest earning is outside the gap of the monies that we've set aside between the bid value and the bond value for contingency. So we're not touching any of the contingency money. This is just pure, simple earnings. I can't even begin to tell you how great a job Rob did. I mean, he went through and played a game dramatic. I mean, it was a tremendous what we were doing. Even our auditing people were like, holy cow, where are you getting all this money? We just did it, and now what we've done is we've given you a lot of flexibility to play the game. And I would anticipate in our current spending drawdowns, they'll probably do another, what, $750,000 next year?
Based on interest rates, I'd say yes.
All right. With all of that, does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you. Information Technology Monthly Report.
There's nothing more to report.
And I do not have anything to add to the Hampton Community Library Report unless there are questions. All right. Public Safety, please, Chief.
Okay, at this time I would like Angela and Ashley, our social workers, to come up along with Officer Ben Brown to talk to you about why they're here tonight.
Hello. Thank you for having us tonight. For those here that don't know us, I'm Angela. I'm the Social Services Coordinator of the Hampton Township. This is Ashley, and then this is Officer Brown. I wanted to come tonight and just share a little bit about a local resident of ours. I started working with this particular resident about 2.5, 3 years ago in 2020 when I first started here as an intern. Throughout my time working with this resident, cases have opened, they have closed, all regarding different issues, but it began back with Chuck as our code enforcement officer as a hoarding resident, where I helped him and his partner both work through different types of exposure therapy and interventions to address the hoarding issues. In addition to that, both of them were going through some medical issues. Through that time, this resident lost his partner due to cancer in 2021. So I helped him through that grief process, and then here we are today where we're helping him with some more medical issues, as well as some code violations that he has been facing due to his medical issues. So myself, Ashley, we've been working with Al and Amanda, both trying to get him the proper resources and services to get through the situation that he has. To summarize it, due to his medical conditions, he's just not physically able to cut his grass, take back the weeds, the trash, keep up with the outside of his home as well as the inside, but mainly the outside. So Ashley and I have both been working with him, well, Al, do you know for how long? Probably about 6 months. Trying to get services in place with local agencies and resources, as well as volunteering our time to help him clean up his yard. When Officer Brown heard us talking about him, all the officers are familiar with this local resident, so they're well aware of what he's gone through over the past few years. He offered to come and do some of the heavier lifting and yard work that we are incapable of doing, so he did come, and we spent probably about 4 hours landscaping as much as we could for his yard so that he could work through those code violations. So right now we're almost there, where he's going to be able to sit back and breathe a little bit. We did ask him to come tonight, but he does have additional medical issues he's working through, so he was not able to attend. But we wanted to give thanks and recognize Ben for volunteering his time off his shift to come and help us and provide community service. So thank you, Ben.
You're very welcome.
And he appreciates it.
All I have to say is you know where I live.
I do.
The lawnmower's there waiting for you.
Let me know when.
So thank you for allowing us to give recognition to him
Well,
tonight.
thank you for your patience this evening as well. I know it's been a little bit of a long night already,
okay.
but
I get to test this out now.
yeah, jumping jacks.
Thank
You know,
you.
before you go, I do want to say that, periodically we do see social media posts where people are saying such wonderful things about our police department. And these sorts of things, the three of you exemplify why that is the case. So thank you so much for everything that you do for the township.
Can I speak up?
Of
Because
course.
I was able to see pictures of the before and after the house,
Yes.
and it is a complete difference of, there were vines and everything, totally covering the house, covering the sidewalk, like he had to walk around the house to get to his driveway. I mean, it was in such bad condition, and the work that Ben did there is amazing. So kudos, and thank you so much for doing that, because it really made a big difference. And like I said, I saw the before and after photos, and you couldn't imagine the work that he put into it. And just thank you very much. I just wanted to mention that, because that was a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank you, everyone.
thank you. And don't show those pictures to Jerry.
I just want to add to that when this came about, I found it out through just a general conversation in the office. Ben never came to me and told me what he did, nor did the social workers. I mean, I believe Susan was sitting in the office when this conversation came up. He wasn't looking for this recognition at all. He just did it because he found somebody that needed help. Nobody would help him, and he took his own time to go out and do it. And this is an example of some things that happen over the course of a year where our officers go out and do things, not necessarily, taking down trees and pulling out weeds, but they do things to help other residents. And if I brought them over here every month for some type of recognition, you'd probably get bored with it. The only purpose is this is just an example of how the police and the social workers work together, how well the program works together, and it's not about us going out there and just writing traffic tickets and arresting people. So that's all I have to say about that.
All right, thank you. And
Good, you go up there. No, this is about you, Ben. Go ahead. You and Angela.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Good job.
all right, Chief, anything to add to the monthly report?
This time I actually do. I was paid a very nice compliment by Mr. Speakman earlier about our overtime, but I have a part-time officer who is going to be resigning here in 5 days. And that will have an impact on the schedule, especially since I have another officer that requested FMLA and has been granted FMLA. So there will be another impact on the schedule. We are constantly searching for replacements. At this time, I don't have any, but we're going to work on it. So we'll see what happens.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right, EMS monthly report, please.
Just want to say first, these are not my notes for what we're going to talk about tonight.
Good, because it has already been a long evening.
It has, but I won't add to it much at all. So thanks for the time. Just quickly, you do have the reports. One thing of note, a couple things of note. We did 162 calls in Hampton in the month of July. That is the most calls we've done in the entirety of the Shaler Hampton EMS organization. So, and that was an increase of 37 over the previous July. Some things you'll note with that, if you look at the third chart about calls by hour of the day, there's times in there where we're doing more calls in Hampton than we were doing in Shaler, and that is certainly not the norm. And then lastly, you'll see that we did have an E0 call. We had a 13-minute response time, and that was directly a result of the volume. It was 3 calls dropped in Hampton within 20 minutes. So when that happens, the ambulance cross street responds to the first call. We send an ambulance from Shaler to the line at Duncan and Route 8. That ambulance was there, responded to the second call, and the third ambulance then came to the Shaler station. There was no bad effects from that response time, to say the least. So unless there's any questions, that's really the data. We continue to do well with non-emergency ambulance. We did a total of 591 calls in total for the month of July. A couple of things real quick. Road closures have been quite the challenge, as we've talked about with Wildwood Bridge. I can't tell you how excited I was to hear about the closing of Duncan Avenue today. That will present more challenges. We'll come up with the solutions for it, but work through that. Add to that Route 8 through Shaler, Hampton, and Route 28. All of those things have led to prolonged transport times to the hospital, specifically Passman and St. Margaret's. So we will be really happy when construction season is over. And then ending on a super positive note, we had a meeting a week before last with leadership and membership at Hampton Fire Department, asking for some insight into training and trying to further bolster their efforts to provide quick response services. An amazing conversation that night. We followed through, and although not definite now, we're probably 95% certain we're going to be hosting an EMT class in Hampton Township and at the Hampton Community Center with great involvement from the fire departments. And we're just working out through a couple final details. So very excited about that. It will be good for our organization, their organization, and certainly the region. So pretty excited about that.
Wonderful, sounds good. Thank you.
If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Why do you think the increase?
Just because. Yeah, I mean, if you go through, you'll see ups and downs and things, and you just really can't predict it. You know, we had a day last week where we did a total of 7 calls and transported 3 patients, and on Monday we did 26 calls and transported 21 patients.
Goodness.
Just because. On Monday we blamed Brian, he was a supervisor. So, yeah, I don't see any specific reason.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I say
Alright.
something real quick?
Of course.
Just one thing on a personal note. You know, when you have a position like I have, I tell people that 90% of what I do is to make sure the right people are in the right place at the right time. And ironically, about a week ago, a member of the EMS board, Walter Stoy,
Yeah.
his granddaughter had a seizure. And to Eric's and his whole team's congratulations is in order for that. But the relationship between the police department and EMS in Hampton has just, I don't know if we actually planned it that way or it just kind of has evolved that way. But before EMS arrived, and then we did find a flaw in the 911 system we're going to correct. It was amazing what the police department was able to do to position themselves and to position EMS. To make a long story short, the 4-year-old went home that night. It was fortunately not as bad of a situation as it could have been, but I had a chance to listen to that call. That was a bad call. And they really, really did a tremendous job. They were just the right people in the right place at the right time. And we've really, really done a good job putting those people there. And yes, we're a little lucky too, but sometimes, you know, you have to have the right people in the right place to be lucky. So congratulations, really, you guys deserve a lot of credit. I know I don't think he could even talk at the meeting.
Yeah, it was a very emotional thing for a very, very experienced emergency service provider. It's very different when it's your family. No ifs, ands, or buts. And you know, when I see the recognition tonight for Ben Brown, it doesn't shock me for a second. You know, it's just a relationship we have, and it is by design. You know, I didn't design the fact that the board has all 3 police chiefs from our communities on it. It's absolutely important and beyond important to the relationship we have and the work we do together. And it's unique in the 3 communities that share our Hampton services. Absolutely. It is different, and it's very beneficial for the community without a doubt.
And probably the best part of this whole thing, it was like, yeah, we do this all the time. Ho-hum, no big deal. I mean, they really did a tremendous job. It was like, yeah, no big deal. Yeah.
That's what we do.
I know.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
I was at home on Sunday. It definitely wasn't me.
Well, thank your
your
team
team
for
did
us.
a good job. And so did the police department's team. I guess Sarah was the first one there. Yeah, I think Sarah Hoffman was the first.
Yeah, it was Sarah and Jeff Haas, and I don't recall the third officer right now.
I mean, when they arrived, she was purple.
Yes, read the email. I didn't realize, I don't think you put in the email that she was 4. I didn't realize she was 4.
Yeah, she was only 4.
Yeah.
I suspect, and I just want to say this, as EMS and you guys go forward with putting EMS with fire, that'll actually build that relationship with fire the same way it did with them rooming with us over at the police department. You know, when you mesh personalities and people are talking and sitting there having lunch together, there are bonds in this, and it doesn't matter which color uniform you wear or which patch is on your sleeve. Those bonds, everybody works together. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Community services, please.
I have nothing else unless you have any comments.
Did anyone have any questions or comments? All right, environmental services.
Jim
Sit on
is on a well-deserved vacation, and what he would have told you is the following. He will be heading probably to Chicago. We have some part issues with regard to the sewage treatment plant that we want to take a look at in person. I think we're going to probably fly to Chicago and then go to Wisconsin. I think it's October 7th and 8th. So he will hopefully be back by the October 8th meeting. This is nothing major. There's some secondary projects or products that we think we can use to actually cut costs that the manufacturer has developed between the time the specifications were written and the way they are today. So when you're doing a $54 million project, we'd really like to see them before you want to make any changes. So that's where he will be. The plant's construction is going very, very well, and so far we're hanging in there. That's all I can tell you. I mean, we're running pretty much on time, We'll see how things go. We do expect to fall behind in the winter. It's just normal. And we'll see how things go.
When's the next council walkthrough?
Well, actually, I was going to talk to you after and ask you if you wanted a personal tour, because I know you have trouble on the fourth Wednesdays.
I do, yeah.
So
It's a
we'll work
possibility.
something out.
Okay, thank you.
But the next one would be next month on the fourth Wednesday.
Oh, okay. On the 27th.
Hmm?
The 27th of September.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And that's our next full report.
Actually, there's one coming to you for today, tonight as well. I'll put in SharePoint. As Dr. Johnson knows, today wasn't a great day.
It's been an eventful week.
So you'll have the same report. It'll give you all the minutes background. All the RFIs are done, all 26. So we're caught up on all our RFIs too. So we're doing fairly well. Our biggest problem is going to be product. That's just it. We know that. We'll keep playing the game until we get it done.
All right. Anything else for environmental services?
No.
All right, zoning and planning, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. The first item is the Windmont Farms final duplex subdivision. All engineering items have been resolved. Gateway Engineers and myself are recommending approval, and I've prepared a motion dated August 23rd, so today, with conditions of approval. The applicant is present as well if you have any questions.
Did anyone have any questions? All right, if not, then can I get a motion to approve the Windmont Farms final duplex subdivision application 19-09 per the Land Use Administrator's memo dated August 23rd, 2023, subject to and contingent upon the conditions outlined therein?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Okay, the next item is the Fry Cane preliminary subdivision / land development. As we discussed, they're not quite ready to come before council, so I would ask that this be tabled to the, this says September, but they've actually sent us another extension request in the intervening time since this was written. So I would ask that you table this to the October council meetings.
Okay, any questions? All right, then can I get a motion to table the Fray Cane preliminary subdivision land development application 2304 to the October 2023 council meetings?
So moved. Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Okay, the next item is the request for release of funds from the improvement security for the Strickland Brothers revised site plan. They've done a good work and finalized just about everything over there. So I'm recommending the approval of that release in the amount of $222,509.39 as per the letter from Gateway Engineers dated July 26th, 2023.
Any questions? All right, then can I get a motion to approve the release of funds from the improvement security for the Strickland? It is the Strickland Brothers one, isn't it? Okay. I had a feeling I had skipped one for a second. For the Strickland Brothers revised site plan application 22-23 in the amount of $222,509.39 per the Land Use Administrator's memo dated August 18th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Okay, the next one is the request for release of funds from the Wildwood Golf Club revised site plan improvement security. This is an older development as well. They have completed all of their site work, so I am recommending the approval of that release. That is the full release. The amount is $315,970.60, and that is as per Gateway Engineers recommendation dated July 28th, 2023.
All right, any questions? Then can I get a motion to approve the release of funds from the improvement security for the Wildwood Golf Club revised site plan 19-04 in the amount of $315,970.60 per the Land Use Administrator's memo dated August 18th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Doherty?
Favor.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor?
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
And next up, we have the referrals. As Mr. Speakman mentioned earlier in the meeting, this application, the First National Bank revised site plan, is for the redevelopment of the Burger King property, which has since been demolished. So First National is going to consolidate a couple of their offices between Richland and here into this one central location. So I'd ask that you refer that to the EAC and Planning Commission tonight for review.
All right, can I get a motion to refer the First National Bank revised site plan 23-05 to the appropriate boards and commissions?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Fritsch?
Favor.
Mr. Kernick?
Favor.
Ms. Blackburn?
Favor.
Dr. Dougherty?
Favor.
Dr. Johnson?
Favor.
Okay, thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions, otherwise I have nothing to add.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Old business.
Nothing to add, which is already on the agenda.
New business.
No new business.
All right, does
I have-
anyone?
I have, okay, I have a comment.
All right.
Okay. I would like to just pass on kudos to Susan and Melanie. The reports, I read the reports that are in the council packets, and the amount of detail and explanation of what is going on in those two departments has substantially improved, to the point that I also think we really need to get that out to the general public, because only the council is seeing all the work that is being accomplished and the events that are being performed. And I just want to say, greatly, I really enjoy, because it answers so many questions. And I'm also going to, this one hurts, say that through many consultations with Mr. Lochner and Rich Zeck, the IT report is now in a much shorter format and as an executive summary rather than all the detail. I can't recommend putting that out into the public purview in the same way, because it's way over everybody's head. Yeah, you have to get into it, but all three areas have really improved. And then, Jim's not here, but he's always provided a pretty good list of detail of things that are going on in the environmental services. So I would like to see and recommend that we work on mechanisms to get that more out into the public purview. But thank you for what you've done.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, does anyone else have anything that they'd like to add this evening? All right, then with that, we will adjourn this evening's meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.
I think you're
See y'all tomorrow.